I want to thank you for joining us today and welcome to the 9th episode of Restaurant Realty Dealmaker. I'm Steve Zimmerman, and I'm the founder and CEO of Restaurant Realty Company, the largest restaurant brokerage in California for the past nearly 27 years. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Sondra Bernstein, our first non-Restaurant Realty Company current restaurateur slash somewhat retired, who I have known for many years, both as a business associate and a friend. I usually let my co-host introduce themselves, but Sondra has so many major accomplishments. I wanted to make sure that she didn't forget any of them. So I will introduce her and then let Sondra follow to amplify her major accomplishments, as well as to explain how she got into the business. Sondra has a diversified background from being a chef, a restaurant owner of the Girl and Fig in Sonoma for over 25 years, and the wine bar in Glen Ellen. She's the operator of an event space in Sonoma known as Sweet D, a full-service catering company, a food truck dubbed The Fig Rig, and a podcast titled The Bite Goes On, and I was privileged to be her guest on her show. She is also an author of several books, including The Girl and the Fig Cookbook and Plots du Jour, The Girl and the Fig's Journey Through the Seasons in the Wine Country. She launched a quarterly newsletter called Fig Chronicles, which covers seasonal culinary topics from local profiles to cocktail tips. Sondra is also an accomplished artist. In 2016, she launched the Sonoma Fig Foundation, which assists in funding for startup entrepreneurs in food, farming, food media, wine and spirits, restaurants, and artisanal food production. Sondra has also developed her own line of fig food, including shrubs, vinaigrettes, nuts, jams, and sweets, private label Girl and Fig wines. If that's not enough, she also started a fig body line, including Tucson fig infused body lotions and specialty goat milk soaps. During the wildfires of 2017, Sondra helped coordinate local efforts to feed townspeople and collaborated with San Francisco chefs for meals for local families. She and John Tools, her partner, were instrumental in providing for locals during the pandemic, despite ongoing health mandates, and they managed to having to lay off many of their long-term staff at the height of the lockdown. Sondra testified in Congress in front of the Ways and Means Subcommittee during COVID, trying to get financial support for the restaurant industry, which was devastated during this time. In 1912, Sondra was celebrated as Person of the Year alongside with her partner, John Tools, by Hospice de Rhone, an international vintners association, at their 20th anniversary event for their commitment to promoting Rhone wines. In 2016, Sondra received the Lifetime Achievement Award from Rhone Rangers for the same efforts. So this is quite a woman with lots of versatile things and been a real asset to our industry. Just procedurally, before Sondra comes on, I want to tell you that we do welcome questions. So please type in your questions into the question box, and we will answer them throughout the show. And by some chance, if we don't have time to answer them during the show, we will get back to you after the show. So without any further ado, I would like to give the floor to Sondra. And before doing that, I would just like to ask her, could you tell us how you got started in the business? And could you give me some more detail on the background of items perhaps I haven't covered, or perhaps things in general you would like to talk about your background? So Sondra, welcome.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I don't talk about the restaurants very much anymore, just with fond memories. So I'm happy to do that. 1997. Well, gosh, I could go back even further. I actually graduated college with a photography major and school and couldn't my ideal job being a photographer. I didn't want to be a commercial photographer. I really was an idealist that thought I could travel around and, have shows and galleries and be an artist. And unfortunately, that wasn't a good call. And I ended up getting a server's job with TGI Fridays. And so that was back in 82, 83, 1982. I don't want to age myself too much, but I just had never been in the restaurant business, and I actually fell in love with the thought that I was entertaining people every single day and was making really good money, lots of different kinds of friends. It was just very high amp and just a lot of fun. Within a couple years, I ended up traveling around the country for TGI Fridays, opening up some of their new stores and being a part of their training teams, just 30 days in different cities. And then you take a break and then you go to another city. And that was amazing. And, again, it was just a really unique experience. At the time that I stopped, they had decided they wanted to do some restructuring in TGI Fridays with how they're training and, fixing some stores, and they were slowing down their openings. They sent everybody back to their stores. And at that time, I decided to go get an associate's degree in restaurant, culinary, and hospitality management from a school then called the Restaurant School, which is now, I think, the Walnut College. It's in Philadelphia. I don't really know, but it was a really cool, intense one-year program, cooking classes in the morning, and then hands-on learning in a real restaurant that they owned. And so for the first 6 months, you were like the cook or the dishwasher or the back waiter. And then the last 6 months, you were the chef or the maitre d' or the accountant, and just very good hands-on, very intense program. And when I got out of there, I ended up managing a couple restaurants in Philadelphia, some very high volume restaurants, and, just still enjoying it with not really knowing where my future was going to go. And ended up moving to Los Angeles, change of pace, lived there for about 4 or 5 years, and I was managing people's restaurants there. And then came up to wine country with a boyfriend, and we fell in love with the area. And 3 months later, we packed everything and we drove up and moved. And at that point, wine country, it's just, this area is so beautiful. And it's so much about agriculture and food. And when people talk about the weather, it's a really important conversation because of our crops and the grapes and wine. And, it's just like, and you see the people that are making your food and growing your food and making your cheese. And it just totally captured everything I love about the food industry. So when I got here, kind of looked around for jobs, ended up getting a job at Vianza Winery, and that was in 1993, and started in the deli, just got my foot in the door. And at the time, Sam and Vicky Sebastiani owned Vianza Winery in Sonoma, on the way to the Sears Point racetrack. So it's over there in Carneros. And it was a fabulous job, learned so much about wine. And when I left 4 years later, I was leaving as the director of operations. We went from, when I started there, we would see 50, 60 people a day. When I left there, we were seeing 20, 25 tour buses a day. So we really grew the business, and it was a really great time for Sonoma as a tourist destination. And, the Sebastianis just did a lot to make it exciting and be there early on. And it was a lot of great Italian food and Italian wines. So at 4 years, I was like, why am I, working so hard for someone else's business? I love the business. I'm willing to work hard. I really want my own place. And I wrote up a business plan, and I gave notice to Vianza, and went on a trip for a couple of weeks, just doing some soul searching, came back. And within a month, I found the first restaurant, which was the original Girl in the Fig in Glen Ellen. And it was just a 40-seat restaurant. And at the time, like leaving Vianza and being so busy, and I had over 100 people on the team, and it was constant. I would joke around and say, I just want to be in a little cafe in a small little town and make pie. I didn't even make pie, but I was like, I just want something different. And it was very hands-on. And this is 25 years ago, this summer. And I don't really remember, but like we did dinner, then we did lunch and dinner, and we did, I was there all the time, and we did everything. We converted this space, which was a pizzeria, into just this really funky wine country cafe, and just kept improving upon it. And we got very busy very quickly. We got some great reviews, and it was nonstop from day one. And so that's kind of how I got into it. The business has changed so dramatically, but like in the beginning, like I loved the idea of creating concept. I love the idea of like, I believe being in a restaurant is like theater. You get to put on your show, and you get to create the set design, and you get to create, the music and the background and everything about it. And I was very involved with the community, and brought my friends and community into kind of developing the restaurant. Like we made our own pottery. People would come in and they would want to eat their appetizer on their plate that they made, or the art shows that were up every other month, or just so many things, like the little flight glasses for wine. People would bring them in and say, here are my glasses, can you use them? And it was just something, it was very connected, very close. And the focus was on local product, local cheese, local farmers, local fish. We knew the fishermen to this day that brought us our salmon. The guy would show up at the back door, open the trunk of the station wagon with the mushrooms. It'd be like, oh, should we really be buying those mushrooms? But it was really that way. And it was interesting. I went from like corporate TGI Fridays, loaded potato skins and Oreo milkshakes, whatever, which, was like the most I knew. Really didn't know that much about food at the time. And being here and seeing how food drives an economy and wine drives a tourism economy, I just really fell in love with just the whole thing, and just really wanted to take care of people and serve people and show off our area, really.
And the Girl in the Fig, is claimed to be one of the top restaurants in Sonoma County, if not in Northern California. I don't know if our guests are aware of the kind of business, the number of covers you did a day, and et cetera. But I know it's quite impressive. Like, how many covers were you doing daily? Pre-COVID and now.
Well, I should go back and say, so the original Girl in the Fig in Glen Ellen, it was only a 40-seat restaurant that we expanded to 50 seats a couple years in. When I had the opportunity to open a restaurant on the downtown Sonoma Plaza, which we ended up pretty much picking up everything in Glen Ellen, and this was 3 years in, and plopping it into the Sonoma location, which is on the northwest corner, and closed the Glen Ellen restaurant for a couple months, opened the Sonoma restaurant as the Girl in the Fig. Now, this was a restaurant, we went from 40 seats, 50 seats to 66 dining seats inside, another 18 seats at the bar, and then a 75-seat patio. So it was a huge difference, but we opened in November, December. And so the patio wasn't open then, so we could kind of gradually go into the growth. And it also had a full liquor license. So, that was a huge difference also, and a whole nother learning curve on, what you needed to know about alcohol and buying alcohol and margins and setting up and all of that, as well as really the liability that comes with having a liquor license in wine country. So, So in the very beginning, we weren't that busy. We would see, the general manager would be the bartender on some days because it just wasn't that busy, but we were all hands in, and just worked really hard and built the business. And before COVID, we would have a lot of days that, were 800, 900, 1,000 meals in a day. Never understood how our tiny little kitchen could do that. And, during the week, it could be 300 or 280 lunches and then another 300 dinners, and the bar would be full. And I attest that to really grassroots marketing. Never had a marketing company way back when. It was all word of mouth. It was newsletters. It was, I really believed if we could give everybody that walked in the door a really great experience, that they would tell their friends. And there's good things about that and not so good things, because people's expectations are so high. When you have 5 friends tell you, oh my God, you have to go here. Oh my God, you have to see that movie. Your expectations get a little bigger, and you expect it to be amazing. Well, it's really hard to do that for everybody, but I'm really proud that we just, I would always say to the staff, it's one guest at a time. It's one experience at a time, and they can go anywhere, they can spend their money anywhere they want to go, and they're picking us. So we have a responsibility to do the best job that we can. And I didn't want to be just another meal. I wanted people to be excited about Sonoma. I wanted them to learn about our cheesemakers and our wine list. Our wine list is very, very unique. After 4 years of serving and educating about Italian varietals, I just wanted to go back to France, and I'm definitely a Francophile. And I love the idea of sitting in like a cafe or a bistro, drinking wine out of a tumbler. And it was just part of the recipe. And I really wanted wine to be part of our recipe, but not focus on big trophy wines, or just wanted it to be a really perfect part of the meal. I wanted to go with the food. And so, yeah, that's what we did. And I just wanted everybody to experience it when they came through our doors.
Okay, thank you. Very nice explanation. So of all the many accomplishments you've achieved throughout your career, what single accomplishment is most meaningful to you?
Wow, that I did read that question, and I was like, I have no idea what the answer could be, but I would say an overall gratitude for being able to offer the amount of jobs, first jobs, long-term jobs, to people, to be a part of other families' lives, and to give them a place where they could support their family and have the kind of life that they wanted. And I honestly think that when I think back of, 25 years in the Girl and the Fig, I think that's what I'm the proudest about, is
No.
being able to hire people and take care of people, and be just part of their journey.
Yeah, that's very nice. Very nice. So what are the challenges running a restaurant post-COVID, and how is your team dealing with these challenges?
Yeah, that's a
Because
great
obviously the
question.
landscape's right there, and you had great foresight when you planned the Sonoma Girl and the Fig with all that outdoor seating, many years before
Yes,
any anticipation of a pandemic and the need for
yes.
outdoor seating. That was very good vision on your part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, people love eating outside. I mean, it's especially like when you're in Europe or you're in France, like sitting outside in the outdoor cafes, it's just so lovely. Well, I am pretty retired from the restaurant business right now. And I think one of the smartest things that I did is bringing John Toolsey in to be my business partner. He was with me day one. I say he was 19. He says he was 21. I don't know. But I knew he was 15 years younger. And at the time, I'm like, I don't know, John, maybe you'll love it. Maybe you'll stay for a year. Maybe you'll go do something else, but come help me open this restaurant. And he worked with me at Vianza Winery. And he was just one of those guys that could do a little bit of everything really, really well. And so I joke with him now that I couldn't get rid of him, thank God. And he basically taught himself, he was an accounting major, but he taught himself how to be the chef. He taught himself how to be the director of operations and to be the president and now the managing partner of the company. And I got really lucky. I mean, frankly, I was really smart about the person I hired. I will give myself a pat on the back for that. But he just was exactly who I thought he was. Someone that, was motivated and would jump to the challenge and have a commitment for detail and excellence. And so how, when you say, how are you doing post-COVID? Well, he's been manning the ship, and through every difficult decision that our city made, that our, government made, that the different regulations made, he's figured it out. And I would say the longest thing, I mean, the saddest day was that March when we basically laid off 240 employees, and I was devastated.
Hmm.
We tried to figure out how can we feed people. We did like drive-in pickup meal things. We tried to keep in touch with everybody, but we had no idea what was coming. Like in my lifetime, never dealt with such a thing, a pandemic, and you didn't know who to believe. You didn't know how bad it really was or what was going to happen. And we knew we just couldn't keep the lights on and just keep paying everybody and have something to come back to. We didn't know at that time the government would step in or, do the things that were very helpful. And we, we tried a bunch of different things. We did a pop-up in the park. We did drive-through pickups for people. We did whatever we could to keep the lights on and to keep going. We turned Glen Ellen into like a mini market, pretty much, sold a lot of yeast, which I was thinking about the other day. There was such a yeast shortage. People were making bread. And I commend John and his team of managers. They got people back as soon as they possibly could. And I would say that in getting back to a place of normality, we kind of went in that wave where are we going to get to still have a business when this is over? To how are people, just all of us, responding to this pandemic in our families, outside of the restaurant, just as a human being? Like, how do you, if you're home and you have to be home for 6 weeks and you're putting your kids in pods and doing all these things, how do you survive, this? And then add the restaurant to all that. And how do you survive your business? And, where do you go? So as we were opening up, not only did we have to deal with the internal things, fixing all this stuff, but we had to deal with all of the emotions of guests that were coming to us. People that never believed it and were so grateful to be there that we were open. People that did not want to be anywhere near your server, but they wanted to be out and they just wanted you to drop the food off and go away. All of these things that everybody had from this crazy time that nobody knew how to really deal with, you had to add that to the mix. And I think that, staffing is been the most challenging of everything. Obviously, inflation has been kind of crazy. We've had to raise prices quite a bit, but getting people staffed and everybody needed staff. And we always had a really big training program. When you would come to be a server or bartender at the Girl and the Fig, you had to go through pretty much a week of following someone else, quizzes, meal tasting, drinks tasting, and when you were ready, they would let you start. You could have a station of 2 tables or 3 tables, but sometimes it was like a week, 2 weeks before they ever got to make any money. And I don't think that we could really do the training exactly the way we used to, because it was so hard to get staff. But I think they're on the right track now. I think they're getting people that because also we just needed people to take orders, get the food in the kitchen and try and, get people served. Now I'm hoping that they're back to the place where they're talking about the experience. They're talking about how the wine varietals work with our food. They're talking about our local cheesemakers and farmers and, what makes the girl in the fig after 25 years. So I commend them tremendously, and I'm so, so proud, and I'm lucky to have such a great business partner and someone who's so committed, and also giving me the opportunity to jump back into, my love of art and, what I want to be doing in the next chapter of my life. So, but once you have the restaurant in you, it never comes out, as Steve.
Yeah.
That's one thing that, you get addicted. I was addicted to the adrenaline of restaurants. I was addicted to, conceptual creation. And when the wildfires kicked in, and then COVID kicked in, and all these regulations and things kept changing, it's like, I hate to admit it, but I lost some of my passion. It was no longer about creating beautiful experiences. You had to jump 10 hoops before you ever got to be in that space. So, I'm just following my creative urges right now, and just cheering on the team from here.
Cool. Oh, thank you for that nice response. So the world is engrossed in technology. And where is the restaurant industry going technologically? I know there's Web3 and there's new tech, and I know it's really tuned into technology. And so what's your overview on technology in the restaurant industry?
Well, it's funny because in the very, very beginning, I've always been tech forward. So we were the first wine country restaurant that had open table way back when. And I just love the idea. I didn't love the pay structure, but I love the idea that you no longer had to write down the reservations on a piece of paper and put them in a book or type them in a spreadsheet or whatever. And so I just wanted to embrace all of it. For me now, 25, really 40 years in the restaurant business since I was doing an art practice, I start going back to my art practice and I'm like, oh my God, everything has changed. People are doing digital art, photography is different. There are all these other tools. And being home, I found myself listening to a lot of Clubhouse, which is an audio app, a lot of podcasts, and learning and absorbing. And there was so much conversation about NFTs. And it was early on in the pandemic where this artist called Beeple, who sold a piece of art for $69 million. And it opened the world's eyes to how is this even possible that someone could sell a digital image that anybody could right click and save and have for themselves. How could that go for $69 million? And from that moment, people started developing the tech that went around it. It became about ownership. And the reason I'm saying this is because how restaurants are becoming part of this are about ownership in a different way, ownership in a community fashion. Restaurants are offering things, NFTs, which is a non-fungible token, which is really just a it's the symbol that says I own this. It's not the thing. It's just an assessment of the thing, of ownership. So restaurants are using NFTs as memberships. So we've got somebody, Gary Vaynerchuk, who his family was in the wine business. He did the wine library on podcasts and very influential in the wine library, but has shifted over to media and marketing and really got in big with NFTs. And he formed a company with some other New York restaurateurs that are creating the Fly Fish Cafe, which will probably be, I don't think they're open yet, but will be one of the first NFT restaurants where, you have a token that you bought, that you own it, like a membership card to a golf club or whatever. And with that membership, you get extra perks, or you get first line reservations, or you get 20% off. It's not that different from a lot of loyalty programs, but selling an NFT in the beginning gives whoever's doing it a bunch of cash flow that they can continue to build. It's like Kickstarter almost. It's like where you're funding something sometimes before it happens, and you're one of the beginners, and you get to keep going. And then you can sell it, and you can either make a profit on it. One of the things I loved about NFTs right from the beginning is that for artists that can't afford paint or brushes or canvas or shipping or anything, they could do digital art. If they had access to an iPhone or an iPad or a tablet, now they could make art, and it could be transported anywhere. It could be put on social media. People could buy it. And NFT using cryptocurrency was giving people a way to take back their independence and make money, not depend on a gallery to hang their art. And the same with there's a company called FOH. There's a bunch of companies called FOH, but this company is now working with restaurants, and they are digitalizing their best dish. Like a restaurant, like if it was us, we could say, oh, here's our digital art piece of the fig salad, our grilled fig salad. And that would be sold as an NFT. And if you own that NFT and you go to the restaurant, you may get certain perks, or you may be invited to private events that nobody else is invited to. And if you move to another state and you're not going to get to go there anymore, you can sell that NFT for a profit and get your money back, or you can trade it for something in another place. And so we're going to see more and more of this as things move forward. People are hearing a lot about the metaverse. Like right now, brands are getting in really big in the metaverse because it's almost like having another three-dimensional website where people can travel in there and be their digital twin in another space. And so, big brands are going, yeah, how do I capture that part of people's eyeballs? How do I get them to see us in this? So it's fascinating, and it's a lot of learning because the space is moving very, very quickly, and it's changing every single day. And, like the news always, you always hear about the bad stuff that's happening first, the ripoffs and the scams and the fraud and whatever, and not always about all the good things that are happening. So I do believe the technology is going to keep coming. We've seen the technology in POSs, in delivery service in tech, in the ghost kitchens in tech. We're seeing robots being built for dishwashing, for food preparation. We're seeing just so many things that are coming on board. And I guess one of my biggest wishes right now is that the education on where this stuff is going could get into our junior high schools and our high schools, so people know that there are tech industries that are moving fast in every industry, and if there's an interest that they can be taught. So I'd like to participate in making that happen.
So as far as having technology in the Girl and the Fig, besides Open Table, what other
Oh my goodness.
technological,
Oh my God.
what other technology are you using in the restaurant?
I hope I can remember them all. Yeah. So John's brought in a few new ones that I wasn't really familiar with. Plate IQ is a company where you can put in all your invoices, and you can pay your invoices through it, but it categorizes everything. So it goes into the right, not that we want to lose staff and not give people jobs, but when it's so hard to find qualified people, you kind of need things that will help do the same thing, but a little quicker. So it's
Mhm.
really like an accountant's best friend as far as keeping track of the numbers. We've switched over to Toast, I think.
Yeah, Toast, that's the
Oh,
premier point
yeah,
of
and
sale
or
system.
Bento Box, I guess, which does the
Okay.
marketing. We use Resi for the reservations in the cafe.
Mhm.
We don't use it the same way, but we were early on in a company called Avero Slingshot, which is a company that will pull the data from your POS system, whatever you're using,
Mhm.
bring it into this other system, give you the ability to look at every possible report, look at your voids, look at your promos, look at your cost of food. And then it became our online logbook, and it continues to be that. In our catering company, we use Triple Seat, which is a platform where a client can put a request in for a service, and it is digitally, it can go back and forth, it can sign the contracts, it can show, what items are available. We use Robly for our newsletter. And Robly, helps you build your contact base. Um,
Wow.
it's like a MailChimp or
Hmm.
that, but it's a newer company. I'm sure I'm missing so many
Wow,
things.
that's quite a
Yeah,
list. Wow, really quite
yeah.
a list. Wow. So thank you for that. With John taking over as well as being the executive chef and actually the partner that runs the day-to-day operations, what are you doing in the company now at this time? What is
Oh
your,
my God, what am
I know
I doing?
you're the majority owner. I know that. So
Yeah,
you still got a lot of skin in the game. But
yeah. I'm doing a quiet in the background, available for support. They don't need support right now. I do sneak in and read the notes pretty much every day, our logbook, see what's happening. I check our bank balance every once in a while. John and I do an update every couple weeks and talk about what's happening. But I'm good. I feel really confident that they're doing a great job, and I am still doing some of the philanthropic work, and I've kind of put a hold on it the last couple months. We did a nice donation for the community center for their culinary department, as a 25 for our 25-year anniversary to give back to the community. And I'll probably pick up some other things for the Fig Foundation in January and start kind of lining up what I want to do for 2023. But very focused in my art. I do keep my head on the technology and NFTs and how I want to understand the use cases for restaurants, for hospitality, for wineries, like how we're moving into the future and how these two things can connect. So, if I find something really, really good, maybe I can talk John into giving it a whirl, but it's his call right now.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
So we have a number of viewers that, are contemplating getting into the restaurant industry. They aren't in the industry yet, but they're thinking about it. So from your perspective, what are the major requirements for a person that wants to be a successful restaurant owner?
Yeah, I have definitely a few opinions
I
about that.
do. Yeah,
You have to love what you do. Plain
yeah,
and simple. Up front,
absolutely.
you gotta love it. If you don't like people, do not get in the restaurant business. If you don't like to work your butt off, don't get in the restaurant business. If you don't want to plunge a toilet or mop a floor ever in your life, don't get in the restaurant business. Those are the first things, because it's not always a party. It's hard work. And as I said, it's addicting. When you get in it and you love it, you really love it. And you get this constant desire to want to please people, to want to do the best thing, to get good accolades. But one thing is that I always treated the business as a business and not a party. I didn't use our walk-in to, support my fridge at home. I didn't use our wine cabinet to take a bottle home. We are definitely very generous with our gifts, our guests, but everything is recorded. Everything. The staff can do things, but it's got to be recorded. And we really hold our managers responsible for their costs and we want them to participate in the success of the restaurant, and they get rewarded as that happens. But people that go into the business thinking it's going to be a party every day, I would just know that, yeah, it's a party, but the party really happens when you're running a successful business, your staff is really happy and they're making good money, and your equipment is working, and because anything that can go wrong is going to go wrong one day in your restaurant. Now, I don't want to scare your clients away, because I had 40 years of love in the restaurant business. And I think that it's rewarding. And, for chefs that work in an open kitchen and they make a dish and they can see it go to the table and a guest is eating it and they're smiling it and they're pushing it to the guests across the table. Oh, you got to taste this, or you got to do this. And some of the other best compliments are like wineries that say, oh my God, this guest came and bought a case of wine because they tasted our wine in your restaurant and they told them where we were. And I mean, that's about sharing and building our community together. So
Yeah,
I would say do it, but do it with eyes wide open.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I read a lot of material about you and your activities throughout your career. And one of the things that struck me was that you have a mission statement.
Mhm.
And that mission statement says, share your passion, be the best in the moment, and provide a great experience. Those are very meaningful things. Could you briefly elaborate on each of these statements?
Yeah, I feel very consistent and authentic in those three statements. And you got to love what you do. You got to share it. You got to do the best job that you can do. There's no sense doing something if you don't do it the best you can. You know, and I just think, we're so lucky to have so many people visit our beautiful area. If we can't give them a good experience, and I apologize to anybody listening that might not have had the best experience, please come back and try it again. But we're all people, we make mistakes and we do great things, and but you just have to care. And that's the other thing I would say to the team, like, look at your guests. This is not about your paycheck. This is not about how much you're going to make at this table. This is about building your personal business for years to come. And if you have one guest and you make them so happy and they love their experience, even if you screw up, they're going to tell other people, oh my God, it was great. It was great. And money will come for both the staff and the owner. And people will come. And yeah, you got to love what you do it well, and share it.
Got it. Thank you. Very good answer. With all the contributions you made to the industry, and there have been a lot of them, is there a single important contribution that stands out in your mind that you made over the years that has benefited the industry?
Oh my goodness. Well, I don't know about the industry, but something that I really, really loved is after the wildfires, heard so many people lost their homes here. We were really firsthand saw what the damage was, saw the people that had nowhere to go. And people would say, oh, I overheard people, oh my God, I lost all my favorite cookbooks. I had this, I had that. And so I kind of jumped into this mode where we started a thing called Delicious New Chapters, and got in a couple people in the community that worked on it with me. But we had 10 different areas for people to drop off their cookbooks all over Sonoma County. And we had the Rotary Club who would drive around and pick them up and bring them to our warehouse. And we collected over 10,000 cookbooks. And then we had
Wow.
a day where we invited anybody to come who lost their cookbooks and to come load up and see if
Wow.
you can find the books that you lost. People came and they cried and they saw people they hadn't seen and just had these memories. And we pretty much were able to place about 8,500 of the books. And then the remaining of them we gave to different schools and libraries in the area. And that was really rewarding because, a cookbook, I have a lot of cookbooks and a lot of cookbooks have a meaning, like where you were when you got it, what recipe did you make, or did you just love the pictures, or did it remind you of travel? And that's why I wanted to do 2 cookbooks for us. That's why I did a fig food product line. I wanted people, when they were not in Sonoma in our restaurants and they saw it or they have it, that they would remember fond memories. And so I think that was really big to the community in general. I just think working honestly, working hard, instilling good values to our teams, I think that's the best I can contribute, really.
Sure. Yeah, that very well said. Very well said. So we didn't get a lot of questions, but we got one statement from one of your former customers, and it says, "It's lovely to meet Sondra. My wife enjoyed the Girl and Fig on many occasions when we lived in the area, 2012 to 2014. The food and the service was fabulous." And I think that probably sums it all up. I mean, you're a real pro, and you execute, and you walk your talk, and you've built a beautiful, business, and been a real asset to the industry. And so I want to thank you for joining us today. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. I think you can go to my website at www.sondra-bernstein.com. Maybe we can put that in the show notes. From there, you can see the art that I'm doing. You can shoot me an email. You can see where I am on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And I'm definitely still in Sonoma. I look forward to doing some traveling next year, definitely places that have good food. So yeah, I would love to hear from people. Definitely talking more about art than restaurants though.
Oh, is there a particular kind of art that you focus on?
Oh my goodness. Right now I'm doing a lot of digital AI work, artificial intelligence, and it's very controversial right now, but it's been really, really fun. A lot of new companies, a lot of new platforms, presenting my work in a lot of different shows. I've got 3 shows that I'm in right now, and just really just doing it, just enjoying it.
That's great.
And I have a shop. I do have a shop on my website as well. If people want to buy prints of, I'll change it up occasionally. They can buy frame prints or whatever.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our next Restaurant Dealmaker Show will be on November 17th, and my co-host will be Louise Franz, who I worked with recently in selling her restaurant called Pizzolina in San Anselmo. Louise has a versatile background. I don't know if it could be considered as versatile as Sondra, but I don't think anybody's background could be as versatile as Sondra. But anyway, her background includes owning her own restaurant and working extensively in major front of the house and back of the house restaurants, as well as owning her own design studio, developing and producing a line of homemade glass tableware for specialty stores and restaurants. Louise has a wonderful personality, as does our co-host today, and I think we all have something to look forward to. So anyway, thank you for all joining us today. Thank you again, Sondra, very much. And I wish you lots of continued success in the future. And everyone stay well. Thanks for joining. Take care. Bye-bye.